All right, there's no reason for me to prolong this. We can just go ahead and kick. Oops. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Matthew. I'm an engineer with OpenTHC. Today's day 5 of building a software factory for OpenTHC's product. Yesterday was day 4, and we were able to start getting the agent to actually run the uh, factory floor that we are building. We built an orchestrator agent, and then we introduced that orchestrator to the uh, lobster flow file that we had a different agent create for us. We modified that lobster file so that the orchestrator agent, you know, could be pointed towards the right resources. Um, and then when we started to get the orchestrator running that lobster flow file and you know interacting with the different sub agents, first thing that we learned is that it's preferable for the orchestrator to be working with anonymous ephemeral sub agents, because these sub agents are supposed to be working with the memory system that are written to markdown files in the OpenClaw orchestrator's workspace, and that's a specific directory in the OpenClaw, you know, file, and it's in your home folder. Anyway, uh, it doesn't inherit all of the prime agent's permissions when it spawns a sub agent. We have to configure OpenClaw to give it those permissions, um, and that's where we ran into some trouble. Like the sub agent, the discovery agent, wasn't actually able to read a directory on the host file system that the orchestrator agent had access to. Um, and that was a problem because the discovery agent, the engineer agent, tester agent, they need to be able to like read the product directory, to manipulate those files, to make changes, to read them, all that stuff. And so what I had to do today was configure OpenClaw and configure the agent to do that. I'm going to go over those changes in a couple of minutes. And I was actually able to do that. So let's just kick it off to the live coding environment and we can start taking a look at this. You're looking at the Prime Agents chat. We're already connected to Vanadium, our software factory. And something that we had to do, let me just scroll up here. Man, I thought I had this stuff down. Agents default. Oh, I know what's messing up. OpenClaw uses JSON5, and JQ is not it's not JSON5 compatible. Jeez, Lou, that's annoying. So if you have comments in your JSON, you know, can't use JQ. So the issue that we needed to fix first was we needed to give we needed to tell the OpenClaw Docker component to bind to a specific directory where we have all of our product code, and that's opt OpenTHC and mounting it directly into opt OpenTHC. We also had to dangerously allow external bind sources to be set to true. And this is so that we could actually mount a directory from outside OpenClaw's workspace into an area that is, again, outside of OpenClaw's workspace in OpenClaw's agent container. The third thing that we had to change for the Docker runtime is we had to set the user to the same user that owns the directory opt OpenTHC. And in the Vanadium system, that's user OpenTHC, and they have UID 420, group ID 420. The last thing, when we set this config, the sub agent was able to actually read and write the opt OpenTHC directory inside of its container. But it couldn't use the native write tool or read tool that OpenClaw gives all of its agents. And it's not because we had set that tool to be disabled by the prime orchestrator agent. It's just that it doesn't allow those tools to be used outside of its workspace. And so I researched the issue a little bit. Actually, I used a deep research agent to help me um, understand all of the stuff that's going on with OpenClaw. And it discovered that there is a up and coming allowed roots directive config that we need to pay attention to. Here's the issue for it that we can keep track of. And basically, what this thing is going to allow us to do is, allow different routes to be accessed and operated by OpenClaw tools. We could set workspace only to false, and we have absolutely done that in our config. And I've left a note for myself here to reset workspace only to true and to enable allowed routes when the issue that we are tracking actually goes live. And it looks like there are actually some merge requests out there trying to address this problem. But as it is right now, that config doesn't work. So we have to resort to that little bit more dangerous config here, setting workspace only to false. All right, so I've already gone through and demoed with our orchestrator agent that these sub agents can write to opt OpenTHC. And it thought about it really hard, and it had it write some test file, sub agent write test 2. I read it. I already deleted the file because we're going to go through this again. We made some more changes to the OpenClaw config. Can write to opt OpenTHC in 2 ways. We can show tools we have already verified, and 1, using show tools we have already verified, and 2, using the write tool. Prove it by having write a test file for both of these scenarios. So that's actually going to take a minute. We'll see some of that information come out of here. See it spawning the session. That's the discovery agent. Haven't totally been able to make heads or tails of some of this output. But, man, we'll get there. Session yield usually means that these things were successful. Sandbox pin mutation helper, app API write test, write failed. So it used exec to write shell write test.txt to opt OpenTHC app, and then test2 API write test to the same directory. The API write tool failed. Maybe I didn't restart the gateway. But the shell write test went just fine. So early adopter problems, man. Let's probably get some feedback for us over here. We can read that. Spawn a sub agent to do this. Just like we said, shell write test was a success. API write test failed. Sandbox pin mutation helper requires Python 3. What? Yeah, how is Python 3 not in that sandbox container? That's open clause container. Why should I have to add Python 3 to it? That's crazy. Early adopter problems. I am struggling with them. I'm not going to instruct the engineering subagents to strictly use the shell commands, but for now, like I'm comfortable with that being the way that we have to go. All right, so let's try to demo our way through the software factory flow. Follow the instructions of the, let's say, flow of the factory until you encounter an issue with flow or the way an agent operates the flow. Report back your results. Let's see if it blends. Welcome, good morning, or good afternoon to all the viewers. Seems like we got a couple on YouTube, one on Twitch. Welcome, and thank you for being here. So this says that the engineering flow step is failing because it's using an ACP, agent coding protocol configuration, but doesn't specify which ACP to use. I, I'm still learning this stuff, man. I don't really fully grasp what it's asking me here. ACP is something else in my brain. And so sometimes when this happens, I have to bring the question back to uh, a different agent that has researched OpenClaw. And I'm going off a lot today on early adopter problems. Like the state of OpenClaw is that it's moving and changing incredibly fast. And I'm not able to keep up with all the different changes that are happening to it. Even my agents get confused here. We were discussing earlier this allowed routes configuration, right? And that isn't even merged in yet, and it's still telling me that that's maybe what I need to consider as a fix. It doesn't know, and I don't know either. So this is kind of how we're troubleshooting until we, get to a solution that is desirable. All right. In trouble with the engineering. Let's take a look at the lobster file. Check out the discovery agent here. Its runtime is set to sub-agent. That's what this is confirmed by our expert research agent here. And the engineering agent is set to runtime ACP. And what we need it to be set to is sub-agent. It also said that the tester was ACP, and now we have set it to sub-agent. So set the engineering and testing agents to sub-agent instead of ACP. Run the factory test again. This time I want you to start from the top of the factory execution. Right. So it's starting out by reading our GitLab issue. The discovery agent is set to a sub-agent runtime. It's good. Does a lot of this churn, like context. It can fight against you. Okay. Fetch the issue. Discovery spawn agent. So now we're just waiting for discovery to finish, and then engineer should start. Looks like it's running into some kind of problem here in the log. Gateway Configured host is auto except for. Oh yeah, it's pretty confused. It's not able to find our Docker compose runtime, but it is around. It's accessible. It's just probably not going to get there. And it's wasting its time trying to find Python in these damn containers. That's really annoying. There's our shell write test file. It's complaining about these in the log. And API write test isn't here. Just shell write test. The user didn't intend you to write to root, bro. Hmm. I don't want it to write memories to the app directory. That's not good organization. But it's having a hard time because we have explicitly set the sub agent's user to the OpenTHC user equivalent on the host. Um, and all of these workspace files are in the root directory. And that's a problem for the setup. Probably the right way to do this is to set up OpenClaw as the same user that is going to be operating on these um, uh, product artifacts, and then just let them like have like the same kind of write permissions that the user would normally have. So the orchestrator spawned the engineer agent. It toward app and it saw bin lib tests. There wasn't a bug to fix. We didn't give it bug, but it wrote tor.php. Hit a permission error trying to read the memory directory. And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's in the root directory. It's probably using the OpenTHC user's permission space, and that's why it can't write there. But if I had, designed the software factory a little bit better, it might be in the OpenTHC user's home directory to which it could write. Wow. It figured out that it needs to run Docker Compose exec to run these tests. Um, but I don't know if it figured out that it needs to run that in the Docker GitHub folder in OpenTHC. That's wild. Let's see if we can reproduce it though. No, that shouldn't have worked. Flaw in the software factory.lobster script. That's my fault, actually. This is the step that it is saying can run the Docker Compose command, but it's in the wrong directory. Discovery agent previously noted that Docker Compose setup actually lives in the directory that we were just talking about. That's great. So this is a lot smarter than, sometimes I give it credit for. Factory flow needs to be updated, blah, blah, blah. I've done that. I've updated the factory flow. Please re-engage the engineer, not the tester agent. Starting with the tester agent. Let's just give him a shot. check out the logs. Confused by that error. We're getting it again, but with just a different command. Yep, that is definitely a way that you can do that. Maybe I need to turn the Docker containers back on. Now everything's running. It's running sessions. You can kind of see these session identifiers, repeating some very specific terms. There's two of them. Let's see if we can identify what the main session here is. To give us stats. Oh, that's weird. Docker compose exec couldn't run because test/test.php doesn't exist. I don't think that's true. Hmm. Maybe it's me that's being silly. Yeah. Okay. more about how I don't always remember, how the system works. Okay, that's acceptable. Boom. Okay. So we know what the problem is now. We just have to tell the lobster command exactly what the right command is. And that is by adding the full canonical directory. Yeah. And the tester agent identified that this is a pathing error. Tried to fix it by passing the Docker compose exec command, the working directory. Its idea is to change the factory flow file to this. But what we did is we just tacked opt-OpenTHC app onto the front of test/test PHP. Exactly like it said. Okay, I have fixed the lobster file. Let's try another test factory run from the top. It wrote some nonsense file a minute ago. Tor. What did it write? Software factory agent Tor complete. Found a bunch of directories. Woohoo. Deleted. I should probably go into GitLab too and tidy a few things up. Because I noticed I have spelling errors in here. Don't write any code engineer this time. All right, that's great. We are testing the factory floor once again. fussing around. Testing the factory flow once again with our updated factory file. You can see the sessions running, parting some tokens here. We are one with the tokens. Show you my factory file here. It's going through a 6-step process. Step 1, it fetches a GitLab issue. 2, the discovery agent, which is ephemeral and anonymous, reads the product's code that it needs to and tries to discover, what's relevant to this issue and what's not. Then it passes that relevant context to the engineering agent in step 3, which writes code and makes product changes. Step 4, the orchestration agent runs the test harness, which is given here by this full docker compose exec command. Step 5 is the gatekeeper loop, which runs the QA tests. For this test issue, it's just trying to see if it can actually start the test harness, not if it can get all of the tests to pass. And then step 6 is a merge request creation step that it's not going to get to because I asked it not to. All right, it's running into some problems using the right command again. So one of these sub-agents hasn't figured out fully that it needs to, keep using the shell tool and not the write tool, but hey. If there's a figuring out it needs to use the shell tool. Oops, more stuff. Okay, here it is trying to write a memory file, and it can't do that. All right, let's see if it wrote that file or hallucinated it. Software Factory Agent Practice, April 10, 1935. I don't think that we sat here for 20 minutes while we waited for that thing to produce itself. Okay, whatever. Maybe it did. It's still figuring out what tools it can and can't use. This is kind of annoying and it's burning up tokens. Okay, the test harness ran and it got the exact same output that we did. Let's see if we can actually see that test report. Oh, heck yeah, that actually produced something. That's amazing. None of these tests are passing by any means, but like the fact that we got output from this and it's web reachable is pretty amazing and a step in the right direction. The factory flow is functioning. I need to get it to retrospect like an actual fucking team. But this is great. The agent's running. We don't have any use for this ticket anymore. I don't even know where it should go. Outstanding work. I don't want to give it a much more complex task, but I do need something to prove what we've done. Um, Let me wait on this decision because I want it to retrospect. We've done a bunch of work. You, the orchestrator. What needs to be improved? What works? What isn't working so well? And how we can improve the workflow. Take your time, think about this step by step. Uh, I'll be right back because we're gonna need that to have a couple of minutes to think about it, and I need to take a break real quick. So I'll be back. All right, great. That didn't kill off all of the viewers. And I appreciate you guys being here. Please remember to like, comment, or subscribe. Ask a question if something is confusing or doesn't make sense to you. And I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you. All right. Retrospection. Delegation models working well. It thinks. State passing via memory files. The lobster framework says it's working well. Sandbox read access. The sub-agents can now traverse the OpenTHC directory, read stuff, and map the territory without compromising host security. Supposedly. Friction points and bottlenecks. Whatever that means. Broken native editing tools. The Python issue. Biggest bottleneck for the engineering agents. OpenClaw's native write and edit tools use a safe mutation helper that requires Python or Python 3 in the container. Because it's missing, agents are forced to use the raw shell commands to write PHP. This is highly prone to escaping errors and will inevitably break when trying to inject complex multi-line PHP logic. Okay, so that is a problem for me. The gatekeeper loop, Docker boundaries. Step 5, ask the tester agent to rerun Docker Compose exec until it passes. Sub-agents operating inside the restricted sandbox do not have access to the host's Docker daemon or CLI. They cannot execute Docker Compose. Damn it. Okay. And three, sandbox write permissions on host now. The discovery agent struggles to write its markdown files. It's talking about its memory via the API because of strict read-only overlay rules on directory creation, forcing it to either pass data back to the orchestrator or rely on shell redirects. So this is its proposed fixes. Add Python 3 to some container and somehow give it to the OpenClaw sub-agent runtime. Two, the software factory lobster flow file should be refactored. Sub-agents should not be responsible for invoking Docker. Instead, the orchestrator runs the test harness. If it fails, the orchestrator passes the standard error standard out to the tester agent. Tester agent's only job is to fix the code and yield. The orchestrator then loops the test harness again, repeating until green. Yeah, that's fine. And it wants us to configure the ACP target for heavy lifting. We temporarily fell back to the sub-agent runtime for the engineering step because ACP default agent wasn't configured in OpenClaw. For complex P1 issues, using a dedicated ACP like Claude or Aider for step 3 would be a massive upgrade. They're purpose-built for AST parsing. Abstract syntax tree, yes, and safe file modification. Standardize the handoff directory. Create a dedicated, universally writable OpenClaw handoff directory that all agents have native read-write access to, specifically for passing context maps and notes between discovery, engineering, and testing without hitting host permission snags. Yep. I don't like its ideas on any of this stuff. Yeah, I'm okay with that with this one actually. Maybe we can get the tester agent just to be kind of like a dumb analyzer, not trying to run all these commands. So let's look at that real quick. You are a tester agent. The test suite failed. Read the error logs from standard in. Fix the code and rerun Docker Compose X till it passes. Okay. Have the orchestrator agents rerun test cases with you until it passes. Do not stop until all tests are green. All right, I can live with that. The Discovery agent struggled to write its Markdown files directly via the API because of strict read-only overlay rules on directory creation. Yeah, another way we could do this is by giving the sub agents root permissions. Got that. So yeah, I can turn this off. Instead of user 420, we can choose user 0:0, which is root. Da, da, memory. All right. Tough trial and error, early adopter problems. All right, big test coming up here. We've gotten into retrospect on some stuff. I guess that there's still some rough edges in that the sub agent containers don't have Python tooling that it needs. But we have fixed some of these other problems. We amended the Lobster workflow to have the agent work with the orchestrator until the tests pass. Um, and we also fixed some permission issues with these subagents so that they run as root, but that's so that they can write memories to the workspace's memory directory. So there's a little bit of debt here that we have to clean up in the sense that, our subagent shouldn't be running as root. But we're going to figure that one out later. And we're also going to figure out later why the subagent containers do not have the Python tools necessary to run the OpenClaw agent tools. But one step at a time. I want to demo the software factory a little bit more. And in order to do that, we are going to give it a very simple test problem. So the title kind of encapsulates this one really well. We want to drop the use of this underbar markdown function in the app. This shell. But you can see that we're kind of using Markdown EX in a couple of places. That's the one that we do want to use, but underbar Markdown is still used. In fact, um, you can see that if we look at it in our vendor OpenTHC common project, um, that underbar Markdown is deprecated, and the one that we want to use is underbar Markdown EX. So we're just going to write that as a description. Identify all occurrences of use of the markdown function. Modify code to use the new function markdown ex, which has the same signature. Hmm. Is in the OpenTHC common library in the app code. It seems simple enough. Like, why does it have to be more complicated than three concrete bullet points? The first one is just an advisory, like, here's where to find it. This way you don't have to waste tokens trying to find it yourself. Like, right, that should be good enough. I hope that I did not tell it to make a pull request. I hope that it does. I want it to make a pull request. Good work. There is a new issue on the top of the P1 list. Let's get to work. If you're just tuning in, we're writing a software factory that's driven by AI. It's got several steps in it. Take a look at the lobster file that orchestrates this thing. Oh man, it really made some changes. Nope, nope, that is the wrong file. Here it is. So the first step that it's going to do is it's going to look for that GitLab file that we just made, GitLab issue, and it's going the orchestrator is going to take that context and pass it to the discovery agent. The discovery agent is going to look around in just opt OpenTHC app for right now, and find relevant, product artifacts that, have to do with whatever the issue is talking about. All right, from there, the engineer agent is going to get all of that context from the orchestrator and from the discovery agent, and it's going to start writing code. Once the engineer agent is done writing code, it's going to pass context back to the orchestration agent, and the orchestrator agent is going to run the test harness, which is this Docker Compose exec app PHP test/test.php file. And then from there, the output is going to be given to the tester agent, and the tester agent is going to fix the PHP code and have the orchestrator agent rerun the test cases and work with tester agent orchestrator until it passes. And then it says the scary thing that I'm maybe regretting a little bit. Do not stop until all the tests are green. And then once that hopefully finishes, the orchestrator agent will create a merge request. And we'll say our factory is like, working then. So it's thinking. It spawned the discovery agent just like we wanted it to. Got the right GitLab issue just like we wanted it to. Discovery agent looked at the product and it found 4 files that needed replacing. I don't even know if I can look at that stuff anymore. We acted earlier. App alert, Gherkin2 HTML, API boot, and then controller Ajax contact notify. Wow. It identified this test, core audit markdown test, as the place for the new test. It wrote the context map to its workspace memory. Hot dog. And then next in the software factory lobster flow is step 3, the engineering agent. The engineering agent needs to read the memory file, make the code changes, and write the new audit test. Cool. And as established in our retrospective, the engineer agent must use shell commands because the right API tool is broken without Python. Womp womp. We need to make sure this is emphasized in our prompt. Drafts tool call such to spawn the engineer agent. No, our API limit has been reached. Oh, come on. No kidding. Just when we were getting to the good part. Damn, it sucks. Only $7 in API spend this month, though. It's pretty good. All right. I am going to try to resolve this rate limit error by just plugging in a different key. I made a new project in the AI Studio thing. These rate limits are driven by what billing project you are in rather than what key. So if you have like two keys that are in the same project, then both of them are kind of subject to the same rate limits. But if you have two different keys in two separate projects, then they're counting the rate limit differently. So because like, you know, the software factory is probably going to use a lot of tokens, probably going to use a lot of API. I am going to set up a separate um, project for it, which I've already done, and mint a new API key for it. Just bear with me while I figure that out. Maybe I can get it to try this auto restart. Just restart it, bro. It's probably as easy as an instruction as I can get. Come on, guys, let's go. What the heck is it doing? It's not telling me anything about uh, sessions running or anything like that. Was at 1:55. That was a couple of minutes ago. I could believe that that was after the restart. Yep. Yeah, this is okay. Not too worried about API rate limits because some of the other professionals that I talk to about these issues, like they're hitting rate limits all the time. Engineer seems like it's trying to do it, but it's using awk instead to make those changes. Hmm. Looks like it's trying to run the test file now, but it can't do that because it introduced a new class into the environment and then it did not run composer autoload dump or whatever. Okay, results. Engineer agent spawned after the API rate limit fix has completed its task. It reports that it encountered the same sandbox permission errors when trying to write directly to the app code with the right tool. Okay. Why did you? Oh my God. You're not supposed to do that, orchestrator. I asked you not to do that shit. Holy shit. It added everything in the working tree, which was not what it was supposed to do. Oh my god. 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 Nope. Nope. Dang it. It committed way too much stuff. Way too much stuff. Final verification. Well, that's really cool. It actually did make that merge request. That's really scary though. Get add everything. Rack, man. It's not what I wanted. It's really not what I wanted. Says it should only be the stuff that we care about now. Wow. I don't know if you caught that chat, but it was went from changes 200 and some to changes 10. And it only did one little commit. I'm a little confused on how it did that. Maybe that's a question for another day. Set the branch back to main. to unstage everything. Now, explicit running git edit only 10 files that matter. Commit and force push the clean commit back to, yeah. Okay. I bet we lost all that shit still, though. No, look at that. It's all there. That's really cool. All of my crap's still here. Okay. I guess one of the last tests that we can do is run the PHP unit test on our own. Exec app bash. And that test passes. That's great. Fantastico. That was fantastic work. Ta-da, chat. One merge request, please. And we made it. So now we can be good little project managers. See that this is, like, wow, it really got like mentioned, including our old bad commit and the merge request. Like, I know we haven't like pulled this in, but like, nice job, factory. So like the work's not even done. We have to migrate away from that old markdown parser too. This is what Busby's just telling me right now, and we need to move on to the league provided one. Well, that's great because now we barely even have to worry about like that work. Barely. Got to audit some weird stuff in the changes, make sure it doesn't git add everything. It's probably going to behave like a junior software developer for a little while until we really dial it in. But this is great for like a first step. I'm really excited. We've been doing the stream for a couple hours. This is maybe a good time to stop. Yeah, look at that. OpenTHC. It's really nice having you guys here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. There's nobody in the YouTube chat anymore. There's nobody in the Twitch chat anymore. Thank you everybody for being here. We had 33 viewers come in, an average of 2 minutes of watching duration. Probably not any long enough to learn anything, but hey, you made an older guy happy. Whatever. All right. Thanks again for watching. I'm gonna let the stream go. Bye bye.